Hi, I'm Daniela Berson with ATV News, and I'm here with Representative Rush Holt of New Jersey's 12th District. Mr. Holt, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Good to be with you, Daniela.
So you've championed a lot of issues throughout your career, from environmental protection, global warming, to all kinds of social justice issues. Of all of these things, what do you think is the most difficult thing to fight for in Congress?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I mean, I guess I'd say the number one concern I have right now is that members of Congress, and in fact a lot of politicians, are selling this country short. And they don't even know they're doing it. They'll talk about what a great country this is, you know, American exceptionalism and all of that, and yet they don't act as if there is a tomorrow. They don't act as if America's best days are ahead of us. In other words, they're not willing to invest. You know, we're in this area of budget sequester, which is just another fancy word for saying deep cuts, meat cleaver across the board cuts. And what that means is we're not investing in infrastructure. We're not repairing the roads and bridges and building new things. We're not investing in science research. We're not investing in education, which is probably the greatest investment one can make. All of those things pay off big. And yet we're saying, Congress is saying, I'm not saying, but Congress is saying, oh, we can't afford to do those things. The biggest problem that I see right now in Congress is this pessimistic attitude about our future. They would never say they're pessimistic about our future, but they're acting as if we have no tomorrow. And that affects our social insurance programs, because those are a kind of investment too. It affects the education. It affects our innovation and our willingness to build and do things. So it affects almost all the areas in which I work. Environment, education, workers' rights and workers' training. So, you know, that's how I would describe it, and most people don't think of it that way.
So speaking of workers' rights, you recently held a women's rights in the workplace conference, and you also discussed the minimum wage. How would you go about instating reforms in New Jersey?
Well, there's a movement now in the Democratic caucus in Congress. It's more than a slogan, but it is, when women succeed, America succeeds. And a lot of people don't think of it that way, but it's really true. If you're going to come up with a living wage, if you're going to come up with humane leave policies and good comprehensive health care and education that goes beyond just the school day, so that you have after-school programs and all of that, these might all be called part of a women's agenda. But if you think about it, you know, it goes far beyond the interests of women. This would be an agenda that would help America succeed.
You're also a huge supporter of the Affordable Care Act. How would you go about extending that insurance to uninsured New Jerseyans? I'd
modify that a little bit. I'm a huge supporter of universal, single-payer, Medicare for all universal coverage, which is not the Affordable Care Act. But the Affordable Care Act is very good, and we should be doing everything we can to make it succeed. Now, the approach of the Republicans has been repeal, repeal, repeal. They haven't, for a while they were talking about repeal and replace, but when they were challenged to present something that they would replace it with, they came up empty. When you say I'm a huge supporter of the Affordable Care Act, yes, I hugely support the Affordable Care Act compared to what existed before it was passed. And I do think the Affordable Care Act is already making many lives much better. You know, all of those 23 and 24 and 25-year-olds who are on their parents' policy, all of those people who have access to Medicaid now that weren't eligible under the old system, all of those people who are not trapped in a job because they know if they move to another job, they won't be denied insurance coverage because their kid has diabetes or some existing condition. All these women who are getting more equitable health care coverage, all these people who aren't overcharged by their insurance companies, who are more interested in paying for marketing or executive salaries than they are for actually paying for health care. All of those things are already better for a lot of Americans, and I think it will get better still. I still think before long we will find our way to universal single-payer coverage, or, so that people understand it, Medicare for all.
So you recently announced your retirement, that you would not be seeking re-election. Why did you decide not to run again?
I've been in Congress 16 years. I would think for, well, somebody who's a college student's age, 16 years sounds like a long time. In fact, it is a long time. I never thought that, I did a lot of things before I ran for Congress. I've always considered myself involved in politics in a sense, taking my civic responsibilities seriously. But I didn't go to Congress until I was 50 years old. I never thought that that this would be my entire career. So I realized that I was going to leave Congress sometime on my own initiative. I'd prefer to do it that way than be voted out of office. I'd prefer to leave on my own terms. I decided at the end of this term would be a good time for the voters in central New Jersey to choose a new representative.
Well, we got to wrap things up here, so thank you very much.
Thank you.